Valley Writer Center. I'm so happy to see so many faces, new and old, here tonight. This is the launch of our 2019 fall season, and what better way to start the season with Nick, Flynn, and Killdeer. If you want a seat and don't have one, raise your hand and we'll get you a seat. There's some over here at the end of this aisle. Come on in and move on down.
Second level. Thank you. Seat here, seat there.
This brochure should have been on your seats when you walked in. If it wasn't, then get one before you leave. This is our season, and in it says all of our courses, all of our readings. It talks about the gala, which we hope to see all of you there on November 22nd. Our own Margot Taft-Stieber, who founded this place and who's the reason why we're all here today, right now. She founded it 30 years ago, and with the help of the board members, especially her husband, Donald Stieber, this is why we're still here. So we're honoring her at the gala. We're also honoring our board members, Alan Brown and Marion Brown. They're here tonight in the audience too, and they're responsible for the sound system. So please buy tickets to the gala. Support us on November 22nd. It's a good cause. We want to thank all of our sponsors, especially Arts Westchester and NISCA. If you didn't see it, this was one of the 5 things to do in Westchester this weekend, this meeting right here. And all of our foundations, we'd like to thank all of them. It's on your brochure, so I'm not going to list them all tonight. I'm going to try to give a brief intro to Nick, which will be hard. In Malone Dies, Samuel Beckett, one of the great examiners of the human interior, writes, "And one day, soon, one earthlit night, beneath the earth, a dying being will say, like me in the earthlight, not even that, and die without having been able to find regret." In Balcony, the 3rd poem of I Will Destroy You, Nick Flynn, one of the great examiners of the human interior, writes, "He knew that once he had his first drink, not right away, but eventually, soon, he'd black out and he'd worry he tried to fly again. The one promise I can make is that I'm staying, even though what knocks on our door at night has at its heart only my getting lost, even though some part of it wants me dead, which is why I feed it with a stick." If Beckett's Malone is so desolate in his existence that he cannot even regret what he has done or what he has failed to do, Flynn's persona in these heart-wrenching, brutal, redemptive poems makes sure that the reader knows how thoroughly tortured, defeated, mournful, and guilty he feels, which makes it all the more poignant that he has promised his beloved and us that he is staying. And by the end of the book, we know the weight and significance of that promise and the toll it takes on him each day to fulfill it. In Sleeping Beauty, he explains, "When I tell you I'm a wounded animal, this is what I mean. I am the thorn, and I am the spindle, and I am the curse." However intimate and personal these confessional poems may seem as a depiction of the persona's psyche, the extraordinary power of Nick Flynn's lyric poems, and most great art for that matter, is that the work makes the reader feel that his words are also an uncanny expression of the most vulnerable and broken parts of ourselves. In a recent interview in Bomb, Nick says, "I think people are endlessly strange, contradictory, complicated, beautiful. Can a poem capture all that? I think we can try, but if anyone thinks they can know me, or anyone, completely from reading words on a page, then I wish them the best." In St. Augustine, my favorite poem in the book, Nick writes, "What's the opposite of standing before a house on fire and knowing you will never understand? I want to enter into that moment my mother strikes her first match, but I am still asleep upstairs. One day, these years will be known as the space between silence and enough. One day, we will look back on these years, a dark time in our country's history, and recall that they were still filled with poetry and that in 4 years, the Hudson Valley Writers Center was lucky because we had 4 visits from Nick, Flynn, and Killdeer. Please help me welcome Nick Flynn.
Thanks so much, Jennifer. I'm really happy to be here. Thanks everybody for being here. It means a lot. And to be back at the Hudson Valley Writers Center, which is really one of the great places in the world, in the poetry world, in the writing world. Also, Jennifer, I loved your intro. It made the book sound a little bleak. We read in Boston last night, and the people that are from Boston, I write sort of for I'm from Massachusetts, and I write sort of for a Boston audience, and they find the book incredibly funny. Just, a lot of laughter last night. And so feel free, if you're feeling a little awkward, like you think like, oh, that seemed kind of funny, but I feel weird. That's a perfectly justified feeling. Yeah. I'm gonna read a poem to start out with, and then I'm gonna invite the band up sort of one by one, or one and then two. And then we'll play some music that goes with the poems. The poems were all written. I'm very fortunate to work with these musicians who aren't here right now. For the last 4 years, in writing this book, I've worked on the book for about 5 years, I guess. And at some point, like very soon, when I started writing them, I began working with Philip and Simi, and I'd already been working with Guy for a long time. And all the poems went through this musical filter. They were all revised in the process of performing them. It was just a very new process for me, and I found it really a blast. So there's that too. So if they sound kind of bleak or something, just know that there's music in them also. Remember that. So I'll read. A lot of the poems also came out of my daughter being 7. She's on the cover. She's the one dancing on the cover with the giant creature. This was taken right up in nearby here, up in what's that town called? Hudson or something? No.
Peterskill?
No, I don't know. No, it's
Hudson?
not. No, I'm making it up. Palinville, baby.
Palinville, yeah.
Yeah, there's a waterfall there, right?
Yeah.
Palinville, there you go. Yes, there's a waterfall in Palinville. So this is where this was taken. With my friends Nicholas Kahn and Richard Selesnik do create these fantastical scenes, and my daughter agreed to. I mean, I think she agreed. She's only like 7, so I don't know if we made her do it, but we had her dance with this giant bear. Did my set list just fall?
Yeah, I think so.
There it is. Yeah, that was stuck. Okay, so I'm gonna read a poem to start out. So this is, I just want to say, so a lot of poems were written also with like being with a 7-year-old. So there's a lot of sort of me sort of trying to tell her what it was like when I was 7. Although this poem, you might not notice it. It's called Prince Performing Motherless Child Live. A lot of things too, like in that time, like a lot of musicians died in those years. And the thing was, they'd come on the radio, you'd hear them all day on the radio. And my daughter, who didn't know who Prince was, I'd say like, she'd sort of talk about, we'd get to talk about that musician, listen to him all day. We had another one just died. We're going to probably do a little tribute to Daniel Johnston, who just died yesterday also. Prince Performing Motherless Child Live. Somewhere, as I watch Prince sing Motherless Child on my phone, it's my mother's birthday. Both exist completely inside the song. I wouldn't change a thing. Flowers run through their veins now. So many, it seems, that inside each is a garden no one will ever wander. Each body can hold so much. Simply to stand requires a million constant and nearly imperceptible adjustments between falling and catching yourself as you fall. Look at how his body moves, both inside each note and as he creates each note. Can I play my guitar, he asks. We know, the song won't last forever. I'd like to invite Guy Mirage to come up. mostly. There's been very little suffering. Stranger, uninvited, you come up to us on the sidewalk, my daughter's hand in mine. You look at her and coo, it goes so fast. What, stranger, is this unnamed it? This day? Her life? Our happiness? Stranger, maybe you missed it, but just now my daughter and I hurled rocks into the emptiness, and we created more emptiness. You know how a killdeer pretends to have a broken wing to lure predators away from its nest? How it staggers just out of reach? If at this moment you're feeling metaphorical, nest can be the whatever inside us that we think needs protection, the whatever that is small and hasn't yet found its way. Like us, it has lived so long on scraps, on what others have left behind. It thinks it could live on air, on words forever almost. It thinks it would be better to let the predator kill it than to turn its back on that child again, forgetting that one lives inside the other. Here's the deal. If you die, then I will be able to drink again, and no one alive will even blame me. This child is the dark wind inside, but not the darkest. Then I think, I'll have another child, a backup, in another city, with another woman, just in case. Then I think, I'll call this Home to be Whispered by the Bedside of a Sleeping Child. So when you're older, you'll understand. Then I think, this isn't even a poem. That wasn't supposed to be one of the funny ones. So if you laughed at that, you should look at yourself. I'd like to invite Simi Stone and Philip Marshall to join us. So now we are Killdeer. Now that we're all here.
That rhymes.
Poetry.
All right, should have tuned up earlier. What a groovy scene going on here. It's like the bitter end. 1968. The revolution has to start somewhere. Let me tell you, you fucking need one.
secret is simple. It's to always want to know what comes next, and to let that want pull you back from the ledge again and again. I have a friend who, the years he was drinking, would every night stack all the furniture in his living room in front of his sliding glass door, which led out to his 5th floor balcony. He knew that once he'd had his first drink, not right away, but eventually, soon, he'd black out, and he worried he'd try to fly again. Table, chair, bookcase. For years, he dragged his furniture every night as the sun went away. And in the morning, he put it all back in place, never considering, not once, that maybe he should stop. The one promise I can make is that I'm staying, even though what knocks on our door at night has in its heart only by getting lost, even though some part of it wants to be dead, which is why I feed it with a stick. You've already met it, but it didn't show you all its teeth. It knew it had to lull you in. It knew you were skittery. It let you feed it by hand. It let you put a finger in its mouth, into its good mouth. It didn't bite down, not hard. Not then. Not yet. This poem takes its title from a line by Ilya Kaminsky. If I speak for the dead, I must leave. You opened my mouth and filled it with stones for days, then weeks, then years. We swam until we couldn't. Like horses, our bodies. Little noises. Now this. Now this. Until it didn't make any sense.
This doesn't make any sense.
Did we really believe that if we could just return to the source and fully, we might then be able to sink back into it?
Make any sense.
I woke up in a boat once. I couldn't remember. I opened my mouth and then, little snake, you were gone. I didn't know you might not come back. Once, I could say I'd never kissed anyone who is now dead. Once that was true. As if my lips were a cure. As if death wasn't the only reason we got into that boat. It held us for as long as it did. That's all we can say. Until it didn't.
Now this. Now this.
we're all just sitting here like going, what the hell? That was not cursing, that was a really cursing moment.
But you were going through. I was like, just chilling.
I'm sorry. I totally skipped that first one. I was wondering when no one was playing. Why was no one playing when I was reading that last one?
It's full of surprises.
That's why we love it. He will destroy you.
Yeah, we missed the whole,
But he is from Boston. From Situate.
Should we go back and do Life is Sweet? Should we do that one? We already did Balcony.
No, really.
They don't know.
Read Life is Sweet over Balcony.
No, we already did Balcony.
No, but read a different poem.
Different poem. Okay. We're really sorry. It was a lot better last night. People started to leave.
Just one person.
Yeah, just one last one. Lock the door. Life is Sweet thing now.
They're very nice people. They won't mind if you read the poem again.
It's true. We all mind.
It's nice poems.
I tried to dream this lake into existence for years. And here it is, ta-da, illuminated briefly beneath our flare. You show me the birds that live underground, oil birds you call them. If you don't know how to walk, you'll break them. Your palm finds my scar. I hear the link. Press harder, I say, until I don't know if my shoulders are the birds, or if my chest is their burrow, or if your hand put them there. But at some point, my body is not empty and wants things poured over and down its throat. What if it never was about finding our way back, but simply about our eyes becoming accustomed to this black water?
Sunlight
Here's the thing. When I woke up, you were gone. It's okay, everyone's gone eventually. But when I tried to put my own hand on my chest, when I tried not to break anything, I was a ghost, touching a ghost. And the thing is, I didn't know I was a ghost until your hand found me. And now, it has nowhere to go. Now, whatever those birds are will simply, what? Return to where they've been hiding? We really did rehearse this quite a bit. I just really messed that up.
I have no idea where we are.
Can't mess it up.
Are we doing St. Augustine and Gertrude right now? Yes.
That's so dramatic, the train meeting.
Yeah, it is, yeah. Storybook. Train,
You guys start this,
view, yes, sorry.
We walk up and out Metropolitan Avenue. The sun splits the sky. Puts a tear in my eye, and I turn and I know you are my friend. You are mine.
St. Augustine preached humility and the need to simply be on the ground. Do you wish to rise, he asked? What would he say of these words then, which, after all, are meant to replace us? What would he say of the way I go back, again and again, to the burning house, the house we've already escaped? These words, so quick, the way they rise up like sparks or smoke. A person could get lost in the sky watching them. A person could lose track of the important things.
The strength I know you need to breathe is now. The strength you need to lead. The strength I know you have within. Your virtue flourishes from your sin.
Spot quiz. What's the opposite of standing before a house on fire, trying to understand the flames, and knowing you'll never understand? I want to enter into that moment my mother strikes her first match, but I'm still asleep upstairs. In the dream, I'm walking through the marsh. It's only there, surrounded by water. Am I safe? Are your hands the water? Are these words the flame? The reeds are taller than I am. The mud slows everything down. In some ways, I cannot imagine seeing you again. But here I am, kneeling as in prayer at your bedside, counting your breaths. My first night without you, my wings fold back into themselves. All those birds inside are released by your hands. Now, I trace my fingers along my collarbone, trying to find where they live. I keep touching my scar. It feels like swallowing night, like flyers for a lost boy. What if it's true? Our bodies are not our own, but only become manifest when activated by another's touch. What if the thing activated is outlined roughly by the word body? This morning, my daughter stood before me naked and said her body was not her own. She's been sick for 2 days. Smiling, she seemed to like it, the feeling, that floating above. I worry it's a setup, a manifestation of the addict I've passed on through the blood, my talent for slipping into the bigger thing, a craving for it. Oh, to live without thoughts, no rats in our shoulders, only verbs, and the willingness to let someone inside. What if these things we call our bodies are not singular or contained? What if they finally become irrelevant? After so much time trying to be grounded, to land on this earth, so strange to imagine, we might simply pass by ourselves for a moment, en route to somewhere else. What's on the other side? A nap? A parade? It works. Matchbox sparks, lightning bugs. I'm completely inside that boy who feels like he's inside me. And this, wonder everything about the parade. confessional. I admit you haven't heard from me in a while. In me, there's a little liar, and a little thief, and a little whore. Forgive me. While writing these words, I was lost in a trance. The sky, wild blue, fruit trees jeweled with ice. If not for what I'd promised, I wouldn't be here at all. You were with me when I found that box in the basement. Opening it was like entering a room and having, at last, someone else breathe for me. No one, as you know, sets out to lose their mind. This poem began as a secret. Not from you. I didn't know you then. Now, it wears its shame like a halo. Please, take it. Move it up. Put it in glass. And watch it dissolve.
That was a very short confession there.
Do it every day. So it's going to be our last piece, and then there'll probably be a little sort of tribute or something at the end. But this is called. This is the first thing that Philip and Cindy and I did together, like 4 years ago. They came over, and it was the day that Alton Sterling was shot by the police down in Baton Rouge, and it was the day after, maybe the day of the 4th of July, 2016. And they had written a song called 240 Red, White, and Blue, and I'd written this poem called Icarus. And so this is the beginning of our collaboration with Phil and Cindy. Icarus, our fallen and risen sun, remember, night is not toothless, not a little bird that sings pretty for baby, not a bird that whispers cry, cry. It's a bog, invisible and loud and everywhere at once. You can number the days the sun won't consent to appear, and the days you can't know what to feel. A burning coal, a dandelion falling out of your mouth. How to get your flowers to grow in such poor soil.
In the parking lot I swore
I pray for you.
you raised your hands and asked for
I
more.
pray for me. I pray for you.
Gravel in our
I
shoes.
pray for me. I pray for you.
40 red, white
field into a hole already dug, a hole just wide enough to slip a tongue into. What I wanted, I didn't ask for. What I needed, I couldn't take. His eyes closing, his ear pressed to the earth, forgetting the threat, falling from above. Midnight birdsong, a ladder unfurling the sky. How many will die before their bodies begin to burn in the night? And how many will you then fit onto the big wheel? If this were the ocean, our boat would be sinking, falling apart like sugar in our tea. But this is nowhere near the ocean.
Stumbling
to
go golden lines are drawn. I stumbled in,
but are you able? Love me with those broken arms. Love me with those broken arms.
The marks in his body spell something. Now rupture, our rapture. A sentence we'll spend the rest of our lives translating. It's either I am more alive in the absence of light, or I feel that itch, the need to break free. He keeps treading water even though the ledge is right there, right at his fingertips. Sometimes you pass a pile of feathers in a field and instinctively look up to the sky. It must be sacrilege to beg like this, to dig the hole into which we can finally disappear.
in the parking lot. I swore
I pray for me, I pray for you.
you raised your hands and asked for more.
I pray for me, I pray for you.
With the gravel in our
I pray for me, we'll get it through.
240 red.
White and blue. 240 red, white and blue.
The sun is high, the sky is gray. Sundown, Independence Day. I pray for me and I pray for you.
240 red, white and blue. 240 red, white and blue. 240 red, white and blue.
I'm going to do one short tribute to Daniel Johnston, who just died yesterday.
We're gonna make a few mistakes, but bear with us.
Please sing along.
Nobody's perfect, and please sing along. I absolutely loved Daniel Johnston. He made like everything seem like it was just doable, and very honest, and like made the simplest things made just little simplest things can be huge.
Yeah, it's gonna be okay.
True love will find us in the end. You'll find out just who was your friend. Don't be sad, I know you will. Don't give up until true love will find us in the end. 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 This is a promise with a catch. Only if you're looking can I find you. 'Cause true love is searching too, but it can't recognize you unless you step into the light, 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 light. Don't be sad, I know you will. Don't give up. True love will find us in the end. True love will find us in the end. True love will find us in the end. True love will find us in the end.
Thank you, Nick.
Thanks for coming, everybody. Thank you, Jennifer, everybody here who does this, makes this happen. The training.
Books for sale over at with Jen and Matt at Village Bookstore, and Nick will sign. Killdeer will sign.
Well, there's a poem called Killdeer.
I know.
Yeah, you can sign that.
No, no.
It's your book.